Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. In this video, I have a recording where Jason Hill gave a presentation to the students at the Cleveland Institute of Art. This video was given to me by Ray Holland, and then I talked to Jason, and he had me edit out a few things that were kind of proprietary and was not quite ready to be released to the public yet. And so it's a lightly edited video, but I think there's a lot of great insights on the design process and how designers think. And I thought it was a great presentation by Jason. So enjoy the video. And if you have any comments below, please put them down.
I spoke to him yesterday, and he said one of the things he said is you got to love design. You got to be in love with design to do this kind of work. And I'm sure that that's something that makes sense to you all as well. So my role here is just, I've been the facilitator of this. I'm a local person. My name is Ray Holland. I'm a volunteer with Aptera, functioning as ambassador, and I approached Doug to have this event put together with Jason. And so we're happy we're finally here. So Jason, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks,
Sure
Ray.
thing. Good morning from California and good afternoon for you all back there. Happy to be here. Ray, it sounds like you've done some introductions.
I just introduced myself and said a little tidbit about you, but I thought they should better hear it straight from the horse's mouth, as it were.
Okay, sure. Happy and honored to be here. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to talking about design and design process and how it relates to my career, but also the future, and also kind of centered around what we've developed for the product that is and will be Aptera. I understand that everybody's interested in kind of the story behind how I've approached the design on this, and also, overall. So I'm going to share with you maybe some images and talk about different points about the journey. I'll begin with a little bit of background on where I'm coming from, essentially. But I would ask if there's any main questions you want to know up front, or I can just dive right into it.
I think it'd be great to dive into it, and then we'll generate some questions as we go.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Let me get my presentation going here. You'd think I know where the preview button is, but I don't. Here we go. Now we're going to share the screen. And that should be, does that look good? You can see that?
Coming through, thanks.
Excellent. So
Looks good.
Yeah, I am Jason C. Hill. I like to use my middle initial and signatures. I am a designer, and I am coming from the Midwest, originally born and bred in Detroit. Did my education at Art Center College of Design and became employed afterwards, in the automotive field, and have been doing, essentially, I call it mobility design and transportation design for, about 30 years now. This means that anything that moves, mostly it contains wheels, but not always. And I can talk about some of those projects. So I've labeled today's presentation as kind of a journey of learning, because even today I like to, I'm always amazed to learn something new. And I love this saying, I was today years old when I learned this. And the journey of learning is really reflective to me, of the journey of design. And design is a process. And what did it for me was I fell in love with the process of design, not necessarily the end product. Yes, I like automobiles, but I like a lot of other things too. And I draw a lot of inspiration from those. So my original journey began with, hey, let's be an architect. Houses are cool, and I like building models. And so in the high school years, I was, they had these competitions where you design a house, you make the drawings, and you make the model and present it. So did pretty well on that. But by the end of high school, I was pretty focused on automotive design, and I was targeting art center. My father was born in California. My grandparents were raised here, so I was kind of like, okay, that's where we're going to go. After art center and that journey of learning, I began my career with the OEM side at Mercedes. They had established, and I was probably the third or fourth employee of the first design studio outside of Sindelfingen, Germany. So Mercedes-Benz set up in Irvine, California, and we did projects. My first project actually with them became the smart car. And you can find the original one. It was called the Micro Compact Car, or MCC. And we had the MCC Eco Sprinter and the MCC Eco Speedster. And those formed the foundation for what became Smart. Smart is a very interesting one because it's the word actually stands for Swatch Mercedes Art. And if anybody knows the history of Swatch, they were shopping around the idea in the early 90s about creating an electric vehicle with like swappable colors and things like that. This was also a period in California where the California Air Resources Board, was demanding that automakers offer zero emission vehicles. So companies like Mercedes, BMW, Honda, Toyota, General Motors, they were all looking at ways to, do the electric vehicles. And I kind of call the EV waves, we're on the third cycle, and we've kind of broken through. In the 70s, there was a push for EVs. Then in the late 80s, early 90s, then we really got going with, of course, people like Musk and Fisker and others who have kind of shaken the box of the electric vehicle world. So I then left Mercedes and joined a company called Samsung. You might know their phones and TVs, but they also have an automotive division. They're now partnered with Renault, and they're a brand that kind of lives in a few export markets. But in 2008, they went through the financial crisis and kind of backed off of that. And so that closed this design studio in California. And I then joined Porsche at the studio here in California. But the main project I did at the Porsche studio was, and this was what it was originally set up for, was I was the lead exterior designer for the Carrera GT. So those sketches are actually my garage. Point in kind of life and career where I said, I'd like to get an MBA. And I said, well, what is an MBA? Well, it's a Master's of Business Administration. Do I really want to go back to school? Seems like if you want to learn business, you should just start a business. So I just incorporated one day in California and started my own consulting and contract design. And that's a design company. And that's what I've been doing, well, more than 50% of my career now. So 11, I formed that actually while I was still at Porsche. And then Porsche and BMW were my first clients. So I kind of left work and went back to work as a contractor for them. And around that, there was a period around 2005 or 6 where I got contacted by a guy who was like, hey, we got this new thing. We're going to make it. We got this diesel motor. We got a hybrid. We want to get 300 miles per gallon. I'm like, well, how do you do that? Well, that became Aptera. And Aptera started by two gentlemen who had different backgrounds, but the same goal. And they formed a company, found me, found others. We built it up. We got really good funding. They brought in a team from an automotive background, and it went sideways with that team. So the founders got kicked out. And I'll explain a little bit about that. The reason I have a question mark here is more for what are we doing, right? what is design and what are we doing? What are you doing? Why choose this educational path? And the answer is personal, but also broad-based. Design gives you the opportunity to create things and affect change in a positive way. Mankind has an amazing ability through technology, through creativity, of essentially infinite knowledge. And I've been reading up on a lot of this, and it's really come into focus where all problems are soluble, and design at its core is problem solving. And it becomes a really excellent journey. So I'll go back to the journey of Aptera, because what happened is we went through an evolution. We had a first generation, a kind of second generation, and a refinement of that. And then the outside auto guys came in, and they fundamentally changed the product. They tried to retain the shape for the aerodynamic properties, but they really missed the mark on everything else. And I like to say that they didn't understand what it was supposed to be, so they tried to make it something that it wasn't. Meaning it's not supposed to be a car. It's supposed to be a different vehicle with different characteristics. So then that went on, and about 4 years ago, the founders approached me and said, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this again. We've got the intellectual property. We're going to incorporate. Are you in?" I'm like, "Yeah." I never stopped kind of designing the Aptera, if you will. It just wasn't the right time. But if you think about the arc of Aptera, now we're at a place where we're getting near the end of the movie, where the heroes come back after being almost defeated, and it's got that Hollywood story arc to it. And we have traction and support. We've got some announcements coming up that are just amazing and awesome. So along that way, a long time ago, how do you make a four-wheeled vehicle was kind of a question, because we were already thinking like, yeah, let's get into production with the three-wheel, and we're similarly doing the same thing. Entering the vehicle market is very difficult. So we're choosing a spot and a set of regulations that we can get into using an achievable amount of capital. And I say that in the way that if we were doing a four-wheel vehicle now, we need 4 to 6 billion just to enter the market. And then you got to hope that you've got a market product fit, or a product market fit. But what we've done with the three-wheeler, we know that we've got a really good product market fit now. We were too early then, but now the technology, the appetite, everything about it is coming together. But this is an original sketch from probably 2006, and you can see the basics are there. And now we've got we put in place a viable and robust design, an iterative design process, and we've arrived at a place where we're in the phase called Delta, and we're literally DFM, design for manufacture, and all the engineering analysis. And we're releasing that. We've got in 2 weeks, we have one deadline, and then by middle of November. So Ray, that's a little bit of a tidbit there. Like, we're done with the production design in the middle of November. And it's really, and then we're heading right to the production tooling. So going back, one of the things we did from the very beginning is we envisioned using the least amount of energy to affect sales and quote unquote service. I'm going to talk a little bit later about service and what it really means about answering questions about serviceability. But for now, like I just wanted to show you a snapshot back in time where we wanted solar panels, we wanted wind power, we wanted an eco-friendly, sustainable materials. Kind of ahead of the game, but now the rest of the world, so to speak, is caught up with that. But that was kind of fun. A few years ago, I was just envisioning what the interior can be when you're in this product, and it actually picks up off of, if anybody's seen the very, very first Aptera, we had a center screen, and this was pre-iPad, but we were trying to get to a place where it's like, put everything on the center screen. It was really, I can't find some of the original sketches. I think they're locked up in an old computer that I just need to essentially unlock and download. But I was so pleased when I saw what the Model 3 was going to do. And I messaged Franz von Holzhausen. That's what he just messaged back. And I knew right then, I'm like, that validates what we, and my point is, I'm getting a message that says my internet connection is unstable. Hopefully
Yeah, I
it's
was
still
about to
good.
tell you that too, Jason. A little bit of breakup just in the last
Okay,
few
sorry about
minutes.
that. We're living in 2022, almost 2023, and we still don't have, sustainable or solid Wi-Fi. So bear with me. My point is this: people like Franz, Henrik Fisker, all of my contemporaries, Derek Jenkins, who's chief designer of Lucid. These are all guys I went to school with. And my point is this: design is always ahead of the curve. That's your job. You've got to be way out front with optimism. You have to design for optimistic outcomes. And it's amazing to see these companies come forth. Tesla's in a position of leadership and dominance that's unbelievably strong. But there's room for others. There's room for Canoes, and there's room for Rivians, and good for Rivian for doing what they're doing. And there's room for Oceans from Fisker and lots of stuff. I like to say there's only two places where this innovation can happen. One is the US because of our system and technology. And the other, frankly, is China, because they understand the game-changing nature of electric vehicles. There's still some dirty processes with it, but each time, every few years, everything gets a little bit cleaner and a little bit better. So my vision was always to have the simplest interior possible in order to enjoy that experience. Here's an early sketch where we wanted to see how to take the old shape, but make it fresh. And I was a little bit opposed to this as a designer, like, look, we should start new. And one of the CEOs and co-founders like, no, we've got the shape. That's what we're doing. And as a designer, you always want to have something fresh and new, but I come to find out that going through this whole process, he was right. And this is essentially the same shape that we not discovered, but refined in the mid to late 2000s. And we have an evergreen shape, and we have an evergreen product, actually. And of course, I'm going to be selling my book on this, and I mean that figuratively. I'm not actually making a book. But when you think about Aptera, you don't need reminders and badges of what it is. And another example, contemporary example of that is the Cybertruck. That as a piece of design, regardless if you like it or not, there's no logos because the vehicle is the logo. It literally is its own thing. And everybody can close their eyes or use their imagination and know exactly what it is. So that's an interesting journey itself. But I'm showing this one because we had a challenge with lighting. And as a designer, you want to push the boundaries and find out what's possible via technology. In the end, you've got to meet two things, though: the regulations for lighting and the feasibility and what the technology can give you. But lighting is one of those signature things that's still evolving. We know how to stamp metal, but we're still learning ways to light the road in better ways. So this was kind of an exploration of how to integrate headlamps and signals and all that, and also exploit patterns. I hit upon this design, which kind of got me in the place to the evolution of what you see on YouTube, where I wanted to split the body between an upper and lower graphically. And this was right before we found the solar cells, and we started playing with how to make solar panels on the vehicle. And that the two kind of worked hand in hand, where we need these panels and we need this. I wanted this split two-tone action, so that kind of evolved that way. This is a little bit older. This is one of the pre-alphas where we were still, now you can notice I was in 2D, now this is 3D. We'd established some baselines like, split drop window, because we just can't do a full drop window and maintain the proper aerodynamic shape. We can come close, but it's actually not that close. So, and the interesting thing is, once you experience like driving this vehicle, you don't even notice this split window. And besides, all the cool supercars have them, going all the way back to, the Lamborghini Countach. So now we've evolved the interior a little bit, and we wanted to explore the side cameras. So I've moved the screens kind of in, and we've evolved that even further, where the screens are integrated right in front of the steering yoke now. But this was an older sketch from probably 2 years ago, where we have an overhead screen, we have the main infotainment and control screen, and then we've got the left and right mirrors. So let's fast forward to where we are now. And actually, in production, this logo is not necessary, and it's been deleted. Even though it's a really nice kind of light up thing, we don't need it because of what I said about the vehicle being its own brand identity. We will keep it on the B pillar. We have a challenge with the headlamp as a motorcycle, because you've got to have all your elements around the center line. And we've done that in an extremely efficient, lightweight, and game-changing way. Our efficiency of the headlamp is north of 50%. Most auto efficiencies, because of the shape and placement, they're 25 to 35% efficient. It's crazy how inefficient automotive headlamps are. Yeah, you can just push more energy through it and more brightness, but now you got more heat. And that's a big thing. And the other reason is, when we had the lights outboard, you're pushing through these angled surfaces, so your performance goes way down. But now we kind of, the rules gave us an opportunity to be even more efficient, and that's our whole ethos. So here we are with the we're keeping the fancy scarab doors for a couple of reasons, because the brand identity of this vehicle demands that it be unique in as many aspects as possible. You can't compete with a product like this against a four-wheel product, because it's not even apples to oranges. They're just, one's a fruit and one's a mineral. Like, they're just completely different. So that's actually one of our superpowers, is the uniqueness. And of course, now we have the full array of solar, and you can see we've got a full hatch with solar, a roof, the upper IP, and the nose, the hood. And this is going to give us, basically, the sun is our superpower. Our charging infrastructure is really robust. The fact that we'll be able to get any miles, useful mileage, from our solar panels is amazing. And I hope you guys enjoyed the solar video about our team and what they're doing there. It's fascinating to see. But we're producing those panels, and producing and testing and refining the process towards production next year. So here we are with the latest interior. It's all about kind of a unique experience, unique relationship is the right term. And I never used to use this term with automotive products until I experienced ownership and use of a Tesla Model 3. And I had a completely different relationship with that product. So as designers, you want to think about your impact and who you're designing for, but also what, like, how do you get to those aha moments that allow you to move beyond? I was thinking last night about 2 a.m. and I realized, like, there's still a temperature gauge in most automotive products. And we're in the year 2022, and it's like, are we really not able to control the temperature? Do we really need a visible temperature gauge all the time? Which led me to another thing that my director of design was saying. It's like, look, what are you trying to solve for? Are you trying to solve for the failures, or are you trying to solve for the successes? And he likes to say it as like, I don't even care about the speed. I want the vehicle to take me where I need to go. I don't need to know the speed every second. So it's like, you have to think about what is the fear and what is the desire. And if you can satisfy the desires, especially in a novel way, which is what we're doing, and you can take away the fear, because really all these things about range anxiety, or what if I get locked in, or what if the battery's, those are all fear-based. So how do we mitigate the fear, but then amplify the desire? So this kind of gives you the overview of my journey of learning for Aptera and how it relates to the design process. And again, the biggest thing that I fell in love with is not necessarily cars, it was the design process. And that's what I was teaching at Art Center. I was privileged to teach early on students about the design process, and then also for a period also graduates, so I could see their journey. That was the most satisfying thing being an instructor, is it was never the income, right? You don't do it for the money, you do it for the outcome, and the outcome is all the industry change and all the success of former students and former, fellow colleagues and fellow students at Art Center and institutions throughout the world, of what change you can affect. So that's kind of it. And, always think positive, assume positive things. And I think the fact that you can enjoy the design process and affect real change in a positive way, that's kind of the mission of designers, if you will.
Okay, the rest of this was a question answer, and I was asked to kind of cut that part out because we wanted to respect that the students are paying tuition to get this and have privileged answer to their questions. But it was not anything new that you guys don't know already. So no new information specifically for Aptera. But it was a good question and answer session. So again, thanks for watching. Comments about the presentation below. And thanks as always to our supporting members. And have a great day, everyone.